What's up, everybody? You're in the machine, and I have a fancy microphone. You are about to find out why you're inflexible or why the flexibility training routine you're using is not working. You're also about to either be thrilled at how simple I make this or irritated that I don't have some sort of magic bullet for you. This is a simple little seated routine to address the muscles of the lower body. But more importantly, I'm going to be explaining the concepts of flexibility training and stretching so you can apply them anywhere with any muscle that you want to stretch. Let's do it. The three reasons you're inflexible are the three T's: temperature, tension, and time. There might be a fourth reason, and that is that you don't stretch at all, but I'm addressing this mainly to active people, okay? Temperature. You've got to stretch when you're warm to reduce muscle viscosity and get the most bang for your buck. If you stretch cold, one, you could expose yourself to injury, and two, it's going to take you forever to warm the muscle up while you're stretching. Tissue viscosity or muscle viscosity has to do with the inverse relationship between volume and pressure. If you work the muscle and warm it up, it will need more blood, and the veins, the venous system around it will open to bring in more blood, and there will be less internal tension in the muscle. That's really important. Secondly is tension. You have to put the muscle or the joint under some stress to make sure that the nerves around it acclimate and accept that this is a new safe range of motion for you. And time, you have to do it long enough to assist in that acclimation of the nerves. Temperature, tension, and time. The great news is results are guaranteed if you do it right. The bad news is it can be kind of boring. If you're jogging, you can look around and see stuff and wave at the neighbor. You can work on cutting your time in half, a few seconds a day. If you're lifting weights, you can brag about how strong you are, or you can add 2 pounds a week or 5 pounds a week. Flexibility training can be really slow because your muscles are used to the range of motion that you've been asking of them. To take them out of that range of motion takes a long time for them to acclimate to it. There could be a fourth T, and I would call that technique, but it really addresses the tension. Proper technique will give you tension. This is a simple little routine. We're going to hit the hamstrings, the hip, and the adductors, and maybe a little bit of the back as we work on the hamstrings. So before we get started, I want to address tension, and that's going to be created by the position of your hips. So here's an example. If my hips are rotated back, that is, I have a posterior tilt, like I'm tipping my pelvis forward, like I'm pointing my tailbone up, all the tension, all of the potential stretch is taken out of my legs, no matter where they are. So if I roll lazy like this and start leaning forward, I haven't really set any tension in the leg. In fact, my back is absorbing a lot of it. But if I give my pelvis an anterior tilt, that is, tip it forward like my tailbone's going away, I suddenly set a lot of tension in my hamstrings. So this is going to be important when we work the hamstrings. Also, the angle of the hips will increase tension on the inside or the outside of the thigh. So here's a nerdy little example just to point this out. Let's say I have these straps here, these bands. If everything is solid in place, when I pull them straight down, there's no change in the tension. But if I angle the origination point or the insertion point away, it affects the tension. That is exactly what we're doing with our hips, because our adductors and our hamstrings insert into the pelvis, into what we would call this hip area. So the movement of the pelvis, the angle of the hips, is going to have everything to do with setting the proper tension. That being said, apply this whenever you're stretching: temperature, tension, and time. If you don't like yoga, if you never watch another one of my videos, make sure you include that in your routine if you really want results. And you also have to be patient. So, really simple. I want to show you what we're up to, and then we're going to do it. We're going to do a forward fold, one leg at a time for the hamstring. From there, we're going to bring the folded foot, the inactive leg, somewhere up here on the thigh. It could be really high, it could be lower down the leg, it could be up here like a lotus, and we're gonna push out for the hip. We're gonna put it back and open to get the adductors. Along the way, we may relax the spine to stretch the low back. So we're addressing basically the thigh muscles here, not really much of the calf, though a little bit when I point the toes up, a little bit of the back. This will apply everywhere you stretch though, just keep that in mind. So let's get started. Hopefully you're warm. Whatever you do, gardening, yoga, vinyasa is really designed to warm you up so you can stretch if you're seeking flexibility. Martial arts, jujitsu, jogging, whatever, make sure you're warm. Jump jacks if you have to, but put yourself in a range of motion to get warm. Once you're warm, at least a little bead of sweat, we're gonna have a seat and sit upright. So by upright, I'm gonna tip my pelvis back. I'm gonna get this anterior tilt so I'm straight. If I let my pelvis be lazy, I'm gonna find a rounded spine. I want a straight spine, okay? So seated, pull one leg in, we'll start stretching all the right side, then we'll go to all the left side. Then we repeat as many times as we want, okay? So I'm gonna pull my left leg in and just sort of let it be lazy. Doesn't really matter, you can just leave it out here. Just focus on the right for now. I'm gonna turn my thigh up or upright by pointing my toes up and peeling them back. I don't have to go crazy and stretch them to me and geek out this calf muscle, but I want it up and down, and I don't want it flopped out. Up and down, just like I'm standing, except I've folded at the hips and I'm on the ground. From here, point it up. I want to tip this tailbone away. That is, my tailbone points back, and I dump the hips forward. So this is called an anterior tilt. I'm gonna barely face the foot, like I'm lining my sternum up with my toes, and then I'm gonna lean forward. I should immediately start getting some tension because of where my pelvis is, the way that I've angled my pelvis back in an anterior tilt. The temptation to relieve that is to round, but that takes away the stretch. So with this straight back, with this anterior tilt of the pelvis, you might only be able to go this far. Good for you, you're still stretching. I suggest getting a grip somewhere to assist in the stretch so you don't get lazy while we're holding it and start backing out. If you can reach your foot, great, but keep your chest pointed forward. Sometimes people have a hard time with this tilt, posterior, anterior. If you keep your chest pointed forward, it tends to pull the upper spine this way, and the lower spine will follow to stay straight. So upright, facing this foot. Forward, I don't care how far you go down. Maybe it's 1 inch and you're barely doing this. It's still a stretch. Maybe you get way down here and you can grip past the foot. Congratulations, you look cool. Maybe you need a strap or a rope or a belt to hook around your foot and pull, but maintain the tension. People always ask me how long. I say 5 breaths, which for most people is about a minute. So let's set this up and do it together one time all the way through. Toes up, legs straight. I'm pointed at it. Anterior tilt of the pelvis. I'm gonna fold forward, find a grip, and I'm gonna breathe 5 times. Nice and full, in, out, that's 1. In, out. That's 2. Your breaths might be a little longer or a little shorter. Again, we're aiming for about a minute. In, out. 3, I think. In, out. That's 4. In, out. That's 5. If you don't want to focus on the breath and you want to do this while you're chatting with your friends after your training class or while you're watching TV or whatever, use your watch, use your clock, use your cell phone. You're staring at it anyway. Set it for a minute, and when it beeps, you switch out. The nice thing about the breathing is it does cause you to focus on the muscle, and you'll tend to maybe get a little more depth than you would have if you were otherwise distracted, okay? That's 1, working the hamstring. 2, simple, we're trying to get external rotation to stretch the hip. So all I'm gonna do is set a figure 4. If you're not very flexible, maybe this is way the heck up here and you barely push. If you are a little more flexible, maybe you set it about mid-thigh and push down. But all I want is a little light tension to feel it in the hip. This one is really easy because I can adjust my pelvis anywhere, and I'm still going to get some stretch on the outside of that hip, that sort of piriformis glute area. The more I set an anterior tilt, the more stretch I'll get, but most of us will get some no matter where. So 5 breaths to stretch the hip. Upright, I lean in a little bit, use my elbow to push down with some body weight while I stay upright. 1, exhale. 2, exhale. 3, exhale. 4, exhale. 5, exhale. We might be going a little bit fast, but for the sake of this little training exercise, I just want to get the point across. We're shooting for about a minute. From here, the adductor is easy. You can throw this way out or you can leave it right here. The idea is I want to stretch my extended foot away and lean forward. Here is where the pelvic tilt is important. If I lean forward and let it round, if I get this posterior tilt, all the tension is off. But if I pull it back, like I'm trying to point my butt away, tailbone pointing behind me, and then I lean forward, I start establishing a stretch on the right side. Once you're in, you can always add to it by pushing that foot forward. And then palms down. I like to keep the legs separated from rolling in by placing the palms at my legs, either both extended or one in. I like one in because it allows me to focus on one leg at a time. We're going to do the left in just a second. And now I lean forward. The chest leads. I'm not trying to round my back. And I can feel it right here in these adductors, the inside muscle responsible for this motion from the knee into the groin. So here we are, leaning forward. Nice stretch on the right side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Resist the temptation to look cool like you got in a good stretch by rolling yourself into funny spots. Remember, we're aiming for tension in the muscle. That's it. That's the right side. Let's do the left. Switch it up. Put the right foot anywhere you want it. Let it flop, put it out, but focus on the left. Toes up, legs straight. That usually means a little internal roll, so it's not flopped out. Peel them toward you, but you don't have to go crazy to stretch the calf. Sometimes that gets in the way of the stretch of the hamstrings. Just make sure they're pointed up, okay? Barely face. Keep the back straight. Lead with the sternum. That should fix it. If you're having a hard time imagining what to do with your pelvis, lead with the sternum. Find something to grip and pull for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Moving on to the hip. Find that figure 4. Doesn't matter where it is. If it's a stretch for you, it's a stretch for you. External rotation is what we're aiming for. We're kind of using the lower leg as a lever to get the external rotation. Put a little pressure on. I like to grab my shin and then drop that corresponding elbow, and I lean into it a little bit, straight back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, looking for the adductor on the left. So I'm going to bring this foot in. Again, you can flop it out if you want, but I like to pull it in close to my groin. And then I push this foot by driving the heel away as far as I need. Palms down, forearms bracing the leg on either side. That's either inside the extended leg and at the shin of the folded leg or inside both legs. Straight back, and I start to lean in. This is important, the placement of this femur bone. If I turn it this way, I'll affect the stretch. So toes point up or maybe even a little bit out. Straight back, leaning forward, lead with the chest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. That's the whole routine. Adductor, hamstring, and hip. If you get flexible or increase your range of motion in those areas, you're going to be damn near injury proof. You'll even be faster and you'll feel better. We're going to go through it one more time, but I want to emphasize temperature, tension, and time. Whenever I have people who've been stretching or training flexibility or doing yoga or whatever, and they don't seem to be making any improvements, it's always one of the 3 T's or all of them combined. Temperature, tension, and time. They're trying to stretch when they're cold. Bad idea. They're not setting enough tension to acclimate the muscle and the nerves around it to the new range of motion, and they're not doing it for long enough. Imagine the range of motion you are in, like 23 hours and 45 minutes a day, laying down, sleeping, sitting at a desk, driving a car, and walking. That is no range of motion at all. You can't expect 5 minutes every Wednesday and Friday to do anything for your flexibility. It's got to be done frequently. That's part of the time. It's got to be done under tension. It should be a strain. It should feel like a stretch, not dangerous, not uncomfortable, but therapeutic pain, like you're getting a massage or something. And you got to do it when you're warm. Let's hit it one more time, and then you can do it as many times as you want. If you're stretching properly, it's not the sort of thing you can really overdo. It's not like lifting weights that you'll end up harming a muscle because you made it so weak. You can stretch as much as you want. I try to do yoga once a day, which involves standard static stretching, and do a couple of little stretches during the day. Get up from my desk, fold over, touch my toes, and so forth, just to keep the muscles used to it. As quickly as you can gain flexibility, you can use it. It's a range of motion that the nerves and the muscles are acclimated to. Let's do it on the right side again. Right leg out, toes up, peeled back, not too tight. Face it a little bit, straight spine, tilt the pelvis away, anterior tilt, and forward fold for 5. You should find, even after 1 round, that you're already lower than the first time. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. Again, breathing not totally necessary. If you want to, just watch the clock for a minute. I like the breathing because sometimes it allows me on my exhale to get a little deeper each time. I also like a connection, some kind of a bind to maintain the tension. Let's work the hip. Figure 4, pull the toes back. Wherever it has to be for you, it doesn't matter. Your stretch is your stretch. From here, grip the shin, lean in with the elbow, Don't fall over. Keep your buns on the ground. And let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's hit the adductor. Fold that foot in or leave it wherever you like. Let's just try to focus on the extended leg. Push it out and away where you're setting some tension. Palms down, forearms, back is straight. Anterior tilt and lean in a little bit. Toes are straight up, maybe even out. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 'Other side, time for the left. Switch legs, left foot out, right foot in and folded or wherever you like it. Toes are up and back at you. Face a little bit, don't do a big twist, but face your target and forward for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember from this spot, if you want to do some rounding to stretch the lower back, it's great. It fits perfectly. Just aim your head like for your knee or your lap. So when I round my cervical spine, the rest of the spine follows and I get a little stretch in that lumbar area, okay? Working to the hip. Find your figure 4, find your grips, straight up and down, leading with the chest and push down for a stretch on the right side. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. All right, doing good. Let's bring it in adductor style. Remember, when you sit this down, you might not feel any tension right away. You might have to push your foot out and away a little bit. Keep the leg straight, toes up. If not straight up, then back, but never forward. Find our grips. Straight back, lead with the chest. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. Again, we're speeding things up just a little bit. Hopefully you have this memorized and you can do it with or without this video every single time you want to stretch. Do not make stretching your thing. If you're not into yoga already, make stretching part of your thing. If you go jogging, part of that is coming in, turning on the news, and sitting down to stretch. If you have a jiu-jitsu class, part of that is BSing with your friends afterwards while you're warm and sitting down to stretch. Make it part of your routine. Temperature, tension, and time. If you follow each of those the way I've described, flexibility is guaranteed, but it is a slow process. You have to be patient. I have lots of other videos for yoga flows and for stretching specific parts of the body. Big focus on hamstrings, lots of stuff if you search through specific body parts or stretches or whatever I've named it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the machine.
But the whole point of the machine is to relieve you of that suffering.
Boy, that was a good one.